Brian, I need to have a conversation with the two of you about CMS. What I want to do.
Okay, Madam Chair, we are now live and you have the floor.
Good morning to everyone, and I welcome you to the Pitt County Board of Commissioners' third day of budget workshop via Zoom. At this time, I will call the board to order. May we have roll call, Madam Clerk?
Good morning. Yes, Chairwoman Floyd Huggins,
Here.
Commissioner Albright,
Here.
Commissioner Colson,
Okay, Madam Chair, we are now live and you have the floor.
Good morning to everyone.
The age of technology.
Commissioner Colson,
Here.
Commissioner McLaughlin,
Here.
Commissioner Nunley,
Here.
Commissioner Ward,
Here.
Commissioner Perkins-Williams.
Here.
It is noted that Vice Chair Fitzpatrick and Commissioner White are absent and continue to be excused.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. At this time, we will have follow-up items and hear from Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. So today is day 3 of your budget workshops for considering the fiscal budget for the coming year, July 1 for fiscal year 21-22. The budget presentation was delivered at your regular meeting on Monday, May the 3rd, and we've had already two days of obviously of workshops with agencies. Today you have public education on the agenda, Pitt County Schools and Pitt Community College. We do have a couple things we want to follow up on, and one thing I wanted to kind of mention, I believe there might be an interest for a attorney-client closed session at the end of this meeting, and wanted to see if that is still a desire for the board to consider.
Do we need to vote or have a consensus?
Vote, ma'am.
Okay, Madam Clerk. I guess we need a motion first.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion that we move to closed session when the time is appropriate.
I'll second it.
Okay, it has been moved that we go into closed session at the time that is appropriate. Ready for the question? Madam Clerk?
Chairwoman Floyd Huggins,
Yes.
Commissioner Albright,
Yes.
Commissioner Colson,
Yes.
Commissioner McLaughlin,
Yes.
Commissioner Nunley,
Yes.
Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins-Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Now we're back to Mr. Manager.
So yes, Madam Chairwoman. So as a follow-up from yesterday, both Brian and I have some follow-up information for you, and I don't want to steal his thunder. We didn't necessarily coordinate our thoughts here, but on the presentation yesterday from the sheriff dealing with revenues, she had presented, I'm trying to find the page that was on, a revenue picture within the sheriff's office, not detention center, but the sheriff's office. Looks like this is on page 5 on the bottom slide, where it was represented that in terms of revenue being brought into the sheriff's office, if you total all those categories on that page, it's a little over $2.3 million. And just wanted to point out that there's 3 things on there totaling $1.3 million of the 2.3 that technically are not revenue that comes in to be spent. The sheriff's security contract, airport security contract, and the school security contract are things that it's dollar in, dollar out. It's not all these other things she's put on there is true and correct, that yes, they are revenues that are coming into the sheriff's office based upon a service that is rendered. 54% of what's on this list is not truly the revenue. And Brian, I'll let you follow up from that.
Thank you, Scott.
Brian.
Can you hear me?
Can you pause just a minute?
Sure.
All right, you may start back.
Okay, well, I'll start over. Good morning, everybody. I put together a little PowerPoint presentation. Actually, Janice and I are going to tag team this a little bit from the financial side and the legal side. I felt it was important for a presentation because it seems like every budget year, we kind of go through this same exercise in respect to revenues from the sheriff and detention side of the general fund. So I kind of wanted to visually explain how some of this works. Like I said yesterday, it's probably a bigger discussion than we can cover in just the morning. But I wanted you all to know that when it comes to sheriff's office and detention revenues, an overwhelming majority of those are in the general fund. They are subject to all of our financial, understandings of how local government finances work with General Statute 159. Those revenues are collected and they are combined with our other revenues to create our overall general fund. There are a few exceptions. We do have grant funding. I think you all are aware of the sheriff's office has a grants employee. So they do bring in a considerable amount of money through grants. And then we also have our state and federal forfeiture funds, all of which are completely separate from the general fund. They have their own accounting set up. They're not commingled. So we're able to keep track of those separate funds. And then the last bullet point is kind of what Scott alluded to. There's two sides to the coin. Typically, when you look at local government finance, there's a revenue side and a corresponding expense side. So most of the all of the revenues that were presented yesterday already have corresponding expenses that they help to fund. So I just wanted to clarify a few things. We did hit on this yesterday. Even the sheriff admitted to this. They're not a profit center. And truly speaking, a profit center is probably not the best term for anything in local government. We are able to recoup our expenses. There are some situations where in an enterprise fund, it's more acceptable to have a profit because you know you're going to probably need it down the road one day for expenses. But for the most part, there are opportunities to recoup our expenses. And that's a lot of what the sheriff has as fees and revenue, or basically revenue recouping. And a lot of those fees are set by general statutes. And I think Janice is going to hit on those in the next few slides. So that way we can't set a price that's extremely high to make up money or lower price for somebody. Those prices, most of the time, those fees are going to be set by the state. Like I alluded to, the sheriff's revenues are all part of the overall general fund. There's a misconception that the revenues aren't being used to fund the sheriff's operations. If you look overall speaking, next year, if you combine all the revenues that we have in our system in the general fund, they only cover 12.69% of the sheriff and detention center's overall operations. So that leaves a $32 million
Excuse
gap.
me, Madam Chair, there's a problem with the sound. There's some distortion that it blocks out some of Brian's wording. I don't know who it is. But
Somebody has the TV or radio going on in the background, it sounds like, at home. They need,
because PIO is not muting them.
yeah, you need to mute yourself if you would, because PIO is not doing that.
Commissioner Perkins Williams, is there anything I need to go back over? Okay.
no, I think you're okay if they can cut out. I didn't want you to go farther into it with that sound just doing whatever it was doing.
Okay.
Well, I thought it was somebody moving papers or something or another around the, microphone. So
but on this particular slide, I just want to drive home the fact that, when we take in revenue from all of our different sources across the county, they go into the general fund, and that is what sets up our base budget. So, there was a assumption that the revenues that were brought in, which I'm going to show you on the next few slides, would be revenues that would be available for new spending. And technically that's not the case. That money is already tied up in various places in various operations. As Scott said, some of that money that's tied up is money in, money out. The rest is what's used so that you don't have to look at raising taxes or that we hope that we can make more money through sales tax. So it's all part of the bigger picture, and it's really not available for expansion because it's already accounted for, which is kind of what I'm hitting on here in this slide. A perfectly good example, if you look about midway down, is our school resource officer revenue. That money is tied directly to our school resource officers that we have situated through various schools throughout the county. So in yesterday's presentation, which I'm going to jump one slide ahead, in yesterday's presentation, I have highlighted in yellow, it was presented as if that 940,650 for school is available for additional allocation. In reality, that money that we get from the school system for those school resource officers pays for that. So it's not really a true picture of how the revenue works. I've also highlighted a couple of others. The airport security is the same way. We contract with PGV. So that money comes in, it pays for the deputies there. So it's a 1-to-1. So it's really not available for reallocation. The contract security pay, that money comes in from each organization that contracts with the county to have deputies on site, and we turn right back around and pay that money out. That money is actually paid on a set rate, and we actually pay the deputy at their hourly rate. So that's one of those situations where I was trying to explain yesterday, where if one revenue does really well, then it helps when another revenue isn't doing as well. So if we have higher paid deputies, we in essence lose money, but we pay the deputy their rate, not the contracted rate. And our lab fees are very much similar, where we have employees who work in a lab and we are able to charge for that service to recover their cost, but that's not money that I can turn around and fund anything new. So just wanted you to get a kind of a clearer picture of how it works financially. Even the newspaper this morning kind of painted a picture where that we have all these additional revenues, and those revenues are really spoken for. So back to my old slide, if you want new revenue for new programming, they kind of go hand in hand, kind of like I told you yesterday about the body cameras, where we had a new program, we were able to increase the revenue, and then we were able to apply that directly without needing any other burden from the county to pay for that program. And we've set it up ongoing to be able to cover those costs.
Right.
So,
can you go back to that slide?
Yeah.
So what I was pointing out in the very beginning of the meeting, those three areas, the sheriff's contract security, airport security contract, and school security contract, not including the lab testing fees he's highlighted, those three represent 54% of about $2.3 million that technically, as Brian is saying, is not a revenue to spend. It's the dollar in, dollar out. Just wanted to reiterate that point again.
So should these not be, should the sheriff not include these in as revenue, or should there be another name?
Should
Name
be
for
on
that.
another slide with another label.
They are revenue, but the impression I got was that the revenue was being presented as a way of showing, here's monies that you could help fund new opportunities within the budget. And what I'm telling you is these monies are already spoken for. And a lot of them are in an essence, to help us recover the cost of our time and our service. And we pump that money right back in. So I don't want anybody to think that this money is going somewhere else. Really, from an overall county standpoint, the only department that could truly make a case of money coming in well and above on their costs would maybe be the Register of Deeds. But every other department, we're all part of this giant pot. And so the money that the sheriff brings in, the money that the inspections brings in, the planning department, the tax office, all that goes to fund everything. So I just wanted you all not to think that we weren't using this money on the sheriff's office's needs. but I just wanted you to have a better picture that it does not even come close to covering all of their needs. But we, and if you look at this particular budget, if you give me a second to expound, I mean, we're covering a lot of things that traditionally we have had a hard and difficult time including in the budget. We also are including the $6 million project for the new building. So I just wanted you all to have a financial picture of how the ins and outs work when it comes to government, local government fund accounting. And now I'm going to let Janice talk about the general statutes in red here to expand upon Commissioner Colson's question.
Yes, good
One
morning.
thing- Could I ask one thing? These things that are highlighted in yellow, excuse me, Janice, I'm sorry, but these things that are highlighted in yellow are not new. This is the way it's always been, and in that direction, correct?
Everything on these, it's 2 slides from yesterday. Everything here is traditionally budgeted. I mean, I have history going back to 2010, so I knew they were here before then.
Right.
So there's nothing new per se about these revenues.
Okay, I just think that's important that, this is not a change in any way on our part. Thank you.
Yeah, Chairwoman Huggins, just want to let you know Commissioner Colson has his hand up. Didn't know when to
Okay.
recognize him.
Commissioner Colson?
The only thing I'd like to say, since I was the one that brought all this up yesterday, I received a 19-page document that has to do with, memory serves me right, Chapter 7A, Article 28, I believe it was, and GS 153 something or other. Janice sent it out. I didn't expect her to do as quickly as she did, but anyway, I've read it, and with Brian's explanation this morning, I'm perfectly satisfied. I hope the rest of you will take the time to read that document, and I think it explains everything. It also neuters the argument that anybody would make in the future that, gee, I'm bringing all this revenue in and it pays for various and sundry, or should be able to pay for various and sundry other services. So I just wanted to say that since I was the one that brought this up as a point. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
I didn't get that document, Tom. It was not in my extra
Yes.
package.
Yes, I have it.
I'm sure Janice will send it to everybody then.
I think it's via email, right?
Yes, that's how I received it, through email.
Yes, good morning. I did email it to everyone yesterday afternoon, and if anybody didn't receive it, I'd be happy to resend it as soon as we're finished with this meeting. I don't have anything additional to add other than I appreciate that Commissioner Colson felt that the response was responsive to his request, and I don't have any concerns about those revenues collected being deposited into the general fund. I think it's always helpful to have those questions and to take the time to do an extra check and inquiry. And so I appreciate the question, and if there are any further, I'm happy to answer them.
I think it's also good for the public to know also. Any other questions, hands, Madam, Mr. Manager?
No, ma'am.
Okay, all right. Well, are we ready to move to the Board of Education?
Yes, we have Dr. Linker, who's ready to approach the podium and make his presentation.
And thank you, Brian, for bringing that information.
Morning, Chair Huggins, Commissioners,
Morning.
Manager Scott Elliott. We appreciate the time to be here today. Would like to just start off a couple slides here. You can see where we've been with our kids this year, what a year it's been. You can see how that's, and I know you've seen everything we've been doing for the last year. Want to also introduce with me, if we have some very detailed questions, I have, I don't know if you can see them where you are. Deborah Baggett, our finance officer, and Matt Johnson, our assistant superintendent for operations. We also have Aaron Erickson on the Zoom if we get real technical into the facilities. We also have numerous board members. Our chair, Melinda Fagundes, is on, Anna Barrett Smith, Don Rhodes, Chief Tripp, and I think that's all of them. I believe that's all of them. So thank you. So first of all, we certainly appreciate everything the way we've this school year. We appreciate everything that's been going on, the support that you've given us over the numerous years. You can see there from those pictures that's obviously been a different year for Pitt County schools and obviously all the other school districts in the state of North Carolina. Pitt County Schools has been opened since day one following the Plan B rules. We jumped to Plan A in our elementary schools as quick as we could. And then we were allowed to go to Plan B or Plan A in our middle school and high schools in April. We've been having lots of our COVID contacts, and our COVID individuals have been working diligently. Our nurses and our teachers and our administrators, our student services director, Karen Harrington, has been keeping our schools open, keeping everything as safe as we can. We've had lots of cases within the schools, but very few transmissions within our school system. We're actually working with the ABC Collaborative, which is part of Duke University. We've been working with them since August, which has actually helped steer us in some of our processes. So get into our budget. As always, this is very typical budget presentation. We're going to talk about our overview. We'll talk about our fixed costs, our new money requests, our capital appropriations, and the Article 40 and 42 sales tax requests as well. Here, just a slide that you've seen. As we keep updating this every year, you can kind of see our local supplement there is green. You can see we've come up throughout the last 10 years through my time here, starting in 2013. You can see we've come up every year since then. We certainly appreciate that. We're kind of, this last year, we've closed the gap on the state average. We appreciate that as well. You can see where the top 50 school districts are as far as their funding. I also say that I just got a text. Caroline Doherty is also on the listening to us and watching this morning as well. Thank you. There's our breakdown of our budget. You can see current county appropriations, almost $43 million, total of about $45.5 million, broken down by rent, fines, forfeitures, the red light camera money. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. You can see all that's broken down there. This is our local expense budget. You can see the main categories of that budget. You can see the bulk of that, which is typical of most, probably all school districts, of the local operating expenses on facilities and operations. A little over a quarter of that. Employee supplements, non-instructional support, which is clerical. We've had that conversation, make up the bulk of our local budgets. Mr. Elliott, I assume I'll go through the whole presentation and ask questions at the end.
Yes,
Yes.
sir. If that's what the chair desires.
Yes.
Thank you. Just another way of looking at our local budget. You have instructional programs is about 55 or 56, 57% of the budget, and about $20 million of that is our support services. Here's basically our request this year. As you can see, the middle number is about $1.8 million, including fixed, and in our basic request for new funds is going to be about 1.8 million. We'll break that down for you. This is just a reminder, and I'll explain this a little later on in the presentation a little more, but you can see a year and a half ago, we increased our teacher supplements to 6%, and we did that in the middle of the school year. The county commissioners gave us a quarter of that money. We funded the other quarter, and then the next half would have been $528,000 to keep that going. That part was not funded back in 2021, but we'll come back around and explain that process. Just a typical slide that you've seen, just kind of breaks down our fixed increase costs over the last 6 years. You see the bottom number, 1,023, is what we anticipate our fixed cost to be this year. total number there. You can see where we've received, what we haven't received during that time frame. Some years we were above our fixed costs, some years below. This year, our fixed costs, as I'm very thrilled to see, we're completely funded, and I'll talk more about that here shortly as well. Just our local, our daily ADM, our average daily membership, that's been fluctuating. You can see this year we were funded in the 2021 funded column. You see that at about $23,800. You can see 23,800 kids. We actually had about 1,000 less students this year because of the COVID situation. That number is back at this point is now above 23,000. We have over 23,000 kids back in our schools. We're anticipating next year to be a little over 23,400. The kindergarten population was about 15% off, and that was pretty much a typical across the state. That it was down for us about 200 kids. So we're hoping we see all those kids this fall, and we're planning for that. So just to look at all of our charter schools, you can see the list of charter schools. We have a little over 1,000 students in charter schools. You can see that the bottom two, NERSBA and the ECU Lab School, the community school, we kind of highlight those a little bit because we're actually in partnership with those. I'm actually on the board of both of those schools. So so you also have a little over 150 of those charter school students that are actually kind of working with us. Funding for charters peaked in 2018-19. It has come down every year for the last couple of years. We hope that'll be coming down again. It looks like this next school year. Locally paid positions. I know this has always been an interest. You can see we've reduced that number from 3 years ago from 270 to 246. It has gone up slightly this last year in our some clerical positions in that regard, reduced some teachers, reduced assistant principal. This is a slide that we shared with our General Assembly members. I think it's important for everyone to see, although we support the idea that we need to increase the minimum pay of all of our employees. You know, these are not what we would consider entry-level jobs. These are employees with families. These are working individuals. We would love to see that increase from 13 to up to $13 an hour, $15 an hour, but you can see the cost locally. The local cost would be somewhere in the neighborhood of $15 an hour. It would cost about over $1 million, and $13 an hour would cost $230,000. I saw there was a bill on the General Assembly. I've not seen any action there yet. So we'll wait and see if that is if that's continuing. But just so you know, that is a potential cost locally as well. And of course, that doesn't take into account the little steps that may also increase if that happens as well. So, but we've shared that with the General Assembly members as well, making them hopefully they realize that if you do that, there's also other costs that would increase, in our state and federal, and dollars would also have to adjust accordingly. Our school resource officers, you know, we've had school resource officers 14 school resource officers for years. A couple of years ago, we got a grant from the state. For a couple of years, we signed back up, and you can see that we got $400,000 this past year for SROs. Okay, that is not a continuing line item in the state budget. That $400,000 is from the state. So we are currently, and we had to match that with federal funds, and we did that with $200,000. We are currently waiting on the budget from the General Assembly to see if it's going to be in there or not. So that's and our partners are aware of that. This was also something we had to deal with last year with our partner municipalities, Sheriff's Office, and City of Greenville. So we're waiting to see what that looks like. And there's a total amount of money we spend on SROs. And again, that's gone up $600,000 or so since 2017-18. Now we'll get into the budget part. So this is our fixed cost increase. And as you're aware, the governor has released the budget, but we're still waiting on the budget from the General Assembly. So the top two items are just the conversations with other school districts and with people who seem to have an ear to what's going on in Raleigh. We think these are realistic numbers. 2.5% increase for teachers. That was kind of what was on the table from the General Assembly the last couple of years. So that's where we're starting. That was not funded for our local teachers. That also directly affects our assistant principal salaries as well. So that's where we're starting with for our teachers. Our classified staff has not had raises in several years, at least 2 years. So we're expecting, this is again what was in the budget for classified staff previously. So we're expecting it to at least be that much. Then the increased cost of Social Security is there. You can also see our retirement rate. That number we do know has gone up to 22.8%. Plus our health insurance benefits have also increased for employees. So that brings us to a total of a little over $1 million, $1,023,000, almost $1,024,000 for our anticipated fixed cost benefits. We think that's going to be pretty close. New money requests. A couple things we've started this year, and we started last year, didn't come to fruition just with the way everything went last year. So now we've got it ready. We're moving forward with the next two items. The Teaching Fellows Program, we need to really start looking at growing some of our own here in Pitt County and helping some of our students. We're actually going to be working with Pitt Community College. They're starting a teacher preparation program as well. So that's a way that we can actually maybe even get more than four Pitt County school students into that program. But we'll be working, giving scholarships to at least 4 kids moving forward. You can see the cost. This is a $5,000 a year. So basically you have the potential to get up to $20,000. So with the idea that you come back and teach for Pitt County schools for at least 4 years, very similar to the model the Teaching Fellows at the state had. We're going to take that to the next step as well with the Principal Fellows Program. Years ago, we got the federal grant for our Teacher Incentive Fund program, and it's done great work for our teachers, giving them, and we've spent, our teachers have received millions of dollars of extra stipends and supplements to do work in our schools. And we knew then when we got that program that one of the unintended consequences would be the fact that our assistant principal pool would probably dry up. So we're reaching out now and reaching into our teachers who want that assistant principal role and trying to help them get to that position. So we're going to start our Principal Fellows Program locally. We've already got two employees hired. They will then be assistant principals for us next year and be going to school at East Carolina University. So we're excited about to get that created here in Pitt County. And you can see that over 2 years, it'll top out after the second year at $40,000. And that's actually, it may be a little less than that because we can actually get if we do off-campus tuition, things like that, it might not be exactly $5,000 a year, but just be a little less. This is a position I'm excited about. We're calling it the Biopharma Career Academy Coordinator or the Biopharma Career Development Coordinator, whichever way we're going with it. This is a program where we're working closely with lots of people in the community. Mark Phillips is one of the leaders of this. We're working closely with PCC and East Carolina University and a grant that they just received, also with the Economic Development Commission, as well as Greenville ENC, for some of our students to have this opportunity. With the expansion of Thermo Fisher, we also see and the whole pharma community here in Pitt County, this is just a great opportunity for our students. And we've not tapped in nearly as well as we need to have. We did start a few years ago our Pharma K-12 program. We're actually getting students trained, and we have numerous students who go through training and have been hired directly at Thermo Fisher. So this is just another opportunity for our students to get into the workforce, whether that's it could be from going to colleges and getting the engineering and going to the workforce, or going straight into that workforce. So we're working closely with them. What we're looking at doing is hiring someone who that'll kind of like an extension of our career technical education, extension of Beth Ann Trueblood, our director, or Simone Pate, another person to actually work in that field, just so our students have that direct line to these individuals. And we know what these companies need, and we can actually put that within our school district and help them get there. So that's what we're trying to create here. I think this has a lot of potential to grow over the next several years for our students and give them some real opportunities and keep them in Pitt County, but also meet the needs of our local businesses. I think that's huge for us to be part of that. We are looking at another supplement increase. You know, we've had that conversation now for years. We talked about the 1 to 6% a few years ago. If we go to 6.5% this year, you can see the total cost there. Our administration is tied to that as well. So it's about a $650,000 increase in our for a local supplement increase to get us to 6.5. I do know that other school districts have increased theirs as well in this last school year. So we need to keep up, and I know our long-term goal with our Board of Education has been trying to get to 10%. And last couple of years, we've been able to move that up from 5.25% to 5.5%, and now 6%. And now, thanks to the county manager's budget, 6.5%. So we're certainly appreciative there. This is our typical capital appropriations. So this was $750,000 for years, several years ago, led by the county commissioners. This was moved to $1 million. We thank you. We're not asking for anything else there. We appreciate that. Also, our Article 40 and 42 sales tax. You can see the budget amount, what we're requesting, and notice the roof replacements I've shared, I believe, at our capital meeting in I think that was in January. We have a large roofing issue, as you can see, about $4.8 million. So we're certainly, plus a lot of other issues we need to be dealing with there, but that's actually the bulk of that. I'm going to break those roofs down in a second. I do know the county commissioners have already approved $2.4 million for us a couple of days ago. I know the team is already getting ready and get working on that. I believe we're going to start at Rose High School, which is, as you'll see, is the biggest single school issue we have there. But you can see we have a total of 4.8. We were asked to prioritize our list. The ones in yellow are prioritized. That's right at $2.5 million. So the commissioners have stepped up, and thanks to Mr. Barnett, Mr. Elliott, we're able to get started on that now. We'll get moving on those this summer. We appreciate that. Certainly a big thank you there. Fund balance is always something we look at, and the commissioners like to look at that as well. You can see that has gone up at the end of 1920. We're going to explain that in a little bit to you. All right, just to also keep in mind that the red light camera money is still under litigation. That is also in our fund balance. So just because our fund balance looks like it was $10 million, there's a little over $2 million that's actually can't be touched. So we're going to, and that is continuing on. We're saving that. We'll start using that for hopefully in the near future for as the board has approved technology, safety items as needed. Back to the fund balance. This is what happened in 1920. You remember a little over a year ago, May, I think middle of March, we got the call that we're shutting down. Well, obviously when that shutdown happened, there were a lot of dollars that were not spent over the last couple months. You can see right at $1.6 million that actually rolled into fund balance. We also had the $400,000 for the raises we received rolled into fund balance that year. Because the state did not give raises to classified people, we took that money and we gave that as a one-time bonus to our classified staff. So that money appeared in fund balance, but it was then taken out. Okay, so it's kind of as Mr. Barnett mentioned earlier, it's kind of an in and out with the money. So money has been used. Now, because the raises aren't there, we're asking for money for raises. That money that we received for those raises went into match, as I said earlier, the 6% supplement that was approved a year and a half ago. That money is now being offset to being used to offset the 6% supplement we started in January of 2020. Hopefully that makes sense. So we're basically taking that money and applying it to our teacher supplements. There's some fund balance, and you can see a lot of it is already committed, and some of it's already spent. Half of that money is not there anymore. It's already been spent. The CMEPS windows, if you drive by the construction process at CMEPS, you can see the new windows being installed now. The roof is on top of it anyway. The modular units have been installed at Ridgewood and Hope middle schools. And you can see the red light camera money is still rolled over as well. So plus facilities projects every year in the facilities department, we get the money. It can't always be spent by July 1st, so it rolls over and gets spent continues into the summer or into the next school year. So first, I just like to say I did see the county manager's budget, and I asked if I could just say thanks and walk away, but I will go through the presentation anyway. So we do appreciate what Mr. Elliott presented to us. We're certainly excited about that and appreciative. I'll take questions at this point, if there are any.
Thank you, Dr. Lincoln. I see Commissioner Nunley's hand.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Dr. Linker, I just wanted to thank you and all of the teachers of Pitt County for everything you did this year, and to congratulate you. It'd be easy to get bogged down and not look forward to the future. But in light of everything that you've done to really help keep our community afloat, you and the teachers, you continue to move forward and lead. And so I just wanted to say thank you for everything that you and the teachers are doing to help get us back where we need to be.
Thank you. We're blessed in Pitt County to have an amazingly strong team, whether that's the central, my team behind me, or whether that's our principals, whether that's our teachers, our teacher assistants. You've seen more buses driving around the last 12, 13, 14 months delivering food to our families. So our school nutrition department has stepped up, and everybody has in such amazing ways. Thank you.
Madam Chairwoman, you have a hand up by Commissioner McLaughlin.
Thank you, Mr. Manager and Madam Chair. I want to thank you, Dr. Lincoln, and echoing what Commissioner Nunley just said. You've been doing a very outstanding job, and your board. We certainly appreciate the hard work that they have accomplished. My question is concerning the traffic fund, the red light funding that you get from your traffic. Are those funds coming in on a monthly basis, a yearly basis, and exactly how do you appropriate those funds?
Those come in. We get money from the city of Greenville for those red light cameras monthly. That just goes into an account right now. Several years ago, we did buy some computers out of there, but when the second litigation came across, we stopped spending those funds, as I think you saw in one of the slides. That money comes in monthly, and we're now holding it in our accounts. And I would like to also say, since you mentioned the board, Commissioner McLaughlin, that our Board of Education stepped out, and when districts around us were not going to school, our board said, no, we're going to school. And we did, and very successfully, I might add.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Any more questions or hands up?
No, ma'am.
Okay. If not, thank you, Dr. Lincoln.
Thank you for your time, Chair Huggins, commissioners.
Okay, we're going to take a 5-minute break, and then we will start with Pitt Community. Okay.
Did. Apparently she has a new principal coming in today.
Madam Chair, just wanted to let you know we're having some technical issues with Commissioner Ward's laptop. It decided to quit on us mid-break, so we are working on getting her joined in. And once we
Oh,
do,
okay.
I will let you know.
All right. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
There's dead silence on my end. Am I still connected?
Yes. I think Beth is having some problems with a computer, with a laptop.
All right. Thank you, Ann.
Yes, Scott. Okay. Well, she wants to be on camera. What, what's it? Do they know what seemed to be the problem? Uh-huh. Mm. Uh, uh, wonder, would it be in less time and just let her drive over there to? Yes, ask her if she just like to come on over to the office. It's gonna take 10 minutes to keep trying to get her. Ask her if she would like to come on over. Okay.
Hello, Kyle.
Hey, Commissioner Ward, we can hear you. Just,
Kyle.
can you hear me?
Hello.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Kyle.
Commissioner Ward?
Hello.
Hey, can you hear me, Commissioner Ward?
Kyle.
Commissioner Ward, can you hear me?
I'm gonna dial again.
We can hear you, Beth.
Commissioner Ward, can you hear us? Commissioner Ward, can you hear me?
Hello.
Commissioner Ward, can you hear me?
Hello.
Commissioner Ward, can you hear us? We can hear you.
Hello. Hello.
Commissioner Ward, can you hear us? We can hear you.
Hello.
Commissioner Ward, can you hear us?
Exactly right. Crazy. How's your crowd doing?
Commissioner Ward?
Hello.
Commissioner Ward, we can hear you. Can you hear us? Check, check, check. Check, check. Check, check. Check, check.
Is your brother doing okay though?
Hello? Uh-huh.
I think this is a good way of saying we should come back to this auditorium.
Ditto.
I'm certainly willing to make that thing. I mean, I'm just as cautious as anyone else, but this is ridiculous. And we can't help it. I'm not saying it's better, because not only that, Tom, Susan sent me a document that I can't even get to print because the printer evidently lost its mind, and it printed, I mean, almost a third of a ream of paper with nothing but a googly gop at the bottom of the line. So the printer done lost its mind. Now I got to buy ink and paper because things ain't working
Well,
right. So I'm
next
tired.
time the next time that happens, as it's printing, you can go into the printers and you can see what's printing and you can cancel it. So you could have stopped that. Another thing is just unplug everything.
Well, I cut it off, and when I turn the dang thing back on,
It's got a memory.
yes, yes, and I go, now I'm gonna get my son to undo it.
Yeah.
But
Well, the best thing is just go into the queue for printing and delete everything that's got in the queue.
Well, I'm gonna
Not
have
your problem.
Yeah, I'm gonna have him do it. When my nerves get bad, it's like I'm ready to slap it.
You want to borrow a 9mm?
I'll tell you, Madam Chairman, I think this is a good indication that we need to go back to the auditorium.
Oh, well,
I'm for this. I got both my shots, if anybody want to know, and I'll be willing to do what I do when I go other places. Wear my mask under my chin, and when I get close to somebody, pull it up on my nose. And that's exactly what I do.
Are you having technical problems too?
Oh, I'm trying to get my social service pack.
And she's just frustrated along with the rest of us.
I was trying to do that while we were trying to wait on Beth. And it's not Beth's fault, but this technology sometimes when it's storm do things, it must. But
well,
I'm ready to go back into the in session.
I told you that one of the things we studied in engineering was Clarke's third law.
What's
that was technology sufficiently advanced is indistinguishable from magic.
Oh, you can see it, can't you? Lord have mercy. Well, what Beth decided to do, come into the auditorium?
Yeah, she's coming in.
Yeah.
Well, I guess when I called for a break, her stuff just broke down. Huh?
Yeah, you should have got right on going. I know sometimes you have to do that, but I said, oh Lord.
Yeah. I needed to do something.
Well, I took it off in video at first because I hadn't made my cup of tea. And I got up and went and got my cup of tea because the pot had cut out his signal that it was done. Since it was done, I could walk right around to the other room. And these mornings sleep too good to be having to get up. How's Phyllis, Tom? She's gone.
She's well. She's got lots of projects for me to do.
Oh, you such a good man.
I just do what I'm told when I go home.
Like I said, that's a good man. My son, look, I know he ready to go back to at work. He got projects too.
Yeah, Anna and I got a meeting that follows this with ABC board meeting, so hopefully we'll get started soon.
Yeah.
I don't know whether Commissioner Fitzpatrick will be there or not.
I hope it can at least call in.
Yeah, me too, Ann. I think it's important.
Yes, that's another contentious situation.
Yeah. How about that? And I called Max Joyner this morning, and I told him that as soon as we get done with our closed session, I will give him a call.
Okay.
Are you going to call in to that meeting?
Or
are you going to physically go?
I'm gonna physically go in this time, I think, and wear my mask.
So how long do you think it'll take to get there for you? When I call him, I'll give him a heads up as about when we think you and I will be there.
Well, getting through that traffic there at that takes long. So really 10 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes.
Okay, well, I'll tell him about 20 minutes.
Okay.
Then that should be ample time. And if you're not there, we'll just start whenever you get in, or if you beat me, then we'll just start as soon as I get there, and hopefully we can call Mike and get him to either call in or give him the heads up as to what's going on. I'll send him a text same time I send out, or I call Max, and that way he'll know.
Okay.
Madam Chair, we are now back, and you have the floor.
Okay. Thank you. We are resuming our meeting after a break.
Madam Chair, you're muted.
Oh. No, I'm not.
Okay, we hear you now.
Okay. We are resuming our meeting after a break, and we were about to hear from Dr. Rouse and from Pitt Community College. Mr. Manager.
Yes, can I
I'm sorry, we need to call the roll.
Yes, the attorney's shaking her head yes.
Chairwoman Floyd Huggins,
Yes.
Commissioner Albright,
Yes.
Commissioner Colson,
Here.
Commissioner McLaughlin,
Yes.
Commissioner Nunley,
Yes.
Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
She's muted.
Perkins Williams?
So Madam Chair, you have the majority of the board. Do you want to proceed? And then when she joins us, she joins us.
Commissioner Williams? Commissioner Perkins Williams, are you there? All right, we will start.
Madam Chairwoman, I had neglected to read a statement Commissioner White asked to be read after Dr. Linker's presentation. There's a comment and two questions. I have covered this with him at the break. He's aware, but if you allow me, I'll read her statement.
Sure.
Says these statements and questions are for Dr. Linker. One, first of all, I'm happy that the county staff is recommending supporting the request of Pitt County Schools at 100%. I know you are also. I completely support this. And her two questions. Number one, she says, I've noticed that many of our school shops are being reduced in productivity because you're using them as both shops and classrooms. Is there any way in your future remodeling you can make sure these shops can revert, make to being totally used as shops and add additional shop classrooms so these teachers don't have to compromise their shop space? That's the first question. Second question says, in my area, parents are really concerned that drop-off points for students do not include covered walkways to keep both students and teachers and staff out of the elements. What plans do you have to add covered walkways as a priority strategically to school campuses in need for them? Those were two questions. Again, I've shared this with Dr. Linker, and we can just have that read into the minutes. With that, Madam Chairwoman, we have Dr. Lawrence Rouse with PCC here, and he has staff and board members here as well.
Do we know is Commissioner Perkins Williams back on?
We've tried texting her, and she is not responding.
Are you ready for Dr. Rouse to begin?
I can try to call him, Commissioner Perkins Williams, if you like, just one.
Just try calling her one more time, please.
Yeah.
She's not answering. I called her myself.
She just stopped talking before we started back.
It's that technology issue.
Madam Chairwoman, I've tried all the numbers we have listed for her, about 4 different numbers, and she's not responding.
Can we move on?
Uh,
Have a majority. Can we move on? Should- Madam Chairwoman, could we move on? I think we have a majority as far as vote is concerned, at least to hear the presentation.
well, I'm sure she would not agree with you since we just finished
Okay, that's
waiting
fine.
for you.
Oh,
If we can, at least we could hear from you, but we can't get her on the phone or anything, right? Is that right?
Correct. Mary, this Scott. Are you ready to go back on camera?
Yes, I'll go back.
Thank you. Everybody's waiting. Thank you.
Fred must have took a jet.
Well, are you back? You're on, we're on live.
Okay.
Doc- Dr. Rouse is about to start.
Okay, good.
Okay. Mr. Manager?
Yes, I'll turn over to Dr. Rouse,
All right.
and he's going to make a presentation to you.
Thank you, and good morning to Chair Huggins as well as our Board of Commissioners. Thank you again for hearing our budget requests this morning. Also, thank you for your support during the tenure that I've had at Pitt Community College, as well as during the life of Pitt Community College. We've just celebrated 60 years of being in operation back in March. So we know that you have supported us for a long time, and we really appreciate that. I also want to thank Ms. Ward for being the liaison to the Pitt Community College Board of Trustees, and she's been very faithful in doing that, so we really appreciate it. At this point, I want to do a little bit of a college overview. I know that you're familiar with Pitt Community College, but I just wanted to kind of give a few points on that before we start. Here. So Pitt Community College is the 6th largest community college of 58 in North Carolina. We offer over 80 degree programs and 280 credentials. Our curriculum enrollment is 11,734. 61% of our students are female, 39% are male. The average age is 23. 40% attend full-time, and we have 1,263 curriculum graduates last year in May of 2019. We also have 6,776 continuing education students last year. 43.9% of them are female, 56.1% are male. Our programs in continuing education include barbering, cosmetology, human resource development, public safety training, short-term workforce development. And we've had 545 customized business and industry training students as well. These are students who are working, and we do upgrading of their skills. So during COVID-19 pandemic, we remain open for business. Since the start of the pandemic, We also have used new technology and services that were added to ensure community needs continue to be met while ensuring the safety of all involved. Our health science, construction, and industrial technology and science lab continued in person with increased safety measures. I'll also add the basic law enforcement training as well. So today we've broken our operational request into two parts. One is the pay increase for county funded employees, also our facilities, services, and campus police. Also, we are bringing a new request, which is the Bulldog Promise Scholarships, which we're asking for funding at $150,000. So with this, I'll ask our VP of Operations to come up, Rick Owens.
Good morning. Just some quick overviews as far as the ask and what we've got going on. The college does have, in regards to facility services, 12 full-time positions. We've got 2 vacancies right now. We actually have an offer going out for one of them. Those vacancies have been open for roughly a year for 2 maintenance facility techs. We do still maintain about 740,000 square feet, with Vernon White being the oldest and the early college high school being the newest. We did maintain the 2020 electric and gas cost. There were some increases as far as raw cost go, but with the pandemic, we were able to keep those pretty steady and pretty well below industry average just by maintaining the buildings, shutting them down as much as possible when they weren't needed and stuff like that. Campus police, we do have the police chief, a captain, and 6 sworn officers with 1 vacant position. They're responsible for the campus and the Greenville Center. We do run the 20+ buildings, and at peak times outside of the COVID pandemic, about 4,000 individuals on campus. During COVID, probably, I think one of the peaks was about 600. So it's been down physically, but we have spread that out throughout the day. And we do have mutual aid agreements in place with the town of Farmville to cover the Farmville Center and then the city of Greenville as well. The ask for those positions, or the salary increase on those, we are running below the average. We've got a comp study coming in that'll tell us exactly where we are. We're working on that. But we've had officers and facility services personnel leave. The 2 most recent were the facility services guys that left to make probably $15,000, $16,000 a year. So we're working with our human resource department. We've got a comp study coming in, working on those. And appreciate the support with that 5% ask to move those salaries up a little bit more comparable. With that,
So one of our new requests this year is an opportunity for us to work with the public schools and also with the students that graduate from public schools to help fill the employment gaps that we're seeing here in Pitt County. We know that over the next 3 years, there's at least 1,000 jobs that require specialized skills and training. So we're putting together what we call the Bulldog Promise. And it will be a benefit to students, families, the community by helping to build a workforce essential to expand existing industry and attract new businesses to Pitt County. It is intended for Pitt County high school students who will participate in the Career and College Promise program. Students must take 12 hours of PCC courses prior to high school graduation and have at least a 2.0 high school GPA. And they must enroll the fall immediately after they graduate from high school. The scholarship would cover tuition for 4 consecutive semesters of coursework. However, students must maintain a 2.0 GPA and complete 67% of their courses, or pass 67% each semester. So over the last 5 years, we've seen an average of 83 students who would be eligible. and the estimated maximum annual cost would be $150,000 per year. And it is what we call the last dollar scholarships. In other words, it would only be applied to tuition and fees and charges after all aid options are exhausted. So we'd have students who are applying for this to apply for federal financial aid, Pell Grants. We'll also have them to apply for scholarship, state grants, and et cetera. And this would be the last dollar in. But we think it would certainly help to create that pipeline of new credentialed employees for our local businesses and industry, and give the opportunity for our students and our graduates to remain here in Pitt County to work at our local businesses and industry. So with this, I'll ask Mr. Owens to come back and give the capital improvement request.
And just a recap of the capital improvement request. It's got the display of the 2021. The biggest ask and the college's biggest need and the biggest need for the community is that Workforce Technology Center. As Dr. Rouse mentioned, there's anticipated 1,000 new jobs coming in several years. We need a place that we can set up the training for those programs. They're pharmaceutical jobs. We need space that we can set that up to get that pipeline running so we can help the business and industry continue to expand. The interior door lock replacement, we're on phase 2 of that. We were able to use some of the fee funding from the college to do the first phase. The Leslie Building roof replacement, we're similar to Pitt County Schools. We've got aging buildings, we've got aging roofs. It's just in need of replacement. The HVAC request, the chiller replacement, the HVAC controls, we're working on alternative funding for those, but depending upon what happens with the Federal CARES Act funding, we may not be able to do that, or we may be able to remove those from the list. And then down into 2023, the 18 million includes that 1.5. So there's about a $16 million or $17 million cost of construction estimated, and then 1.5 in design and construction management. And then again, the door lock replacement, and then moving to the exterior door locking. Right now, all the exterior door locks on the campus are manual. We go through, unlock the buildings every morning, go back, lock them every night. This would give us the ability to remotely lock those buildings down. It also gives us some monitoring so we can tell if doors have been left ajar or something like that. Again, the workforce technology, the biggest ask, it does give us some flexible lab space, training spaces, focuses on the jobs that are coming and expanding. So the cybersecurity, simulation, and game design, the pharmaceutical life sciences, the sterols, advanced manufacturing, customized manufacturing, and this also gives us some space to expand that Pitt County Schools PCC partnership with the Technical Academy that's going to be essential, again, to the economic growth and livelihood of the county. It does serve existing industries. We're working on attracting new businesses with the workforce development. And then the other thing is the silver tsunami that we all see, which is the anticipated retirements in the 5 years. And it is, again, I'm going to abuse the word critical. It's a need, not a want. The key to it, the pharmaceutical services, 600 jobs in the near future, computer technologies, and then 1,000 in advanced manufacturing in the next 5 years is what we're hearing as far as projection. And they do require some sort of certificate or associate's degree to get in there. Leslie Building roof replacement, we've discussed that one. It's been patched. It's just reaching the point that I can't patch on top of patches. So it's in need of replacement. The controls request, these will bring them up to the point that it's full building automation. So we're able to turn those buildings significantly up or down at night, depending upon the weather remotely. And it does some reading, and then it also ensures the airflow and filtration to help reduce the spread of COVID-19. The door lock replacement we just discussed. And then just a campus map. With that, any questions?
Madam Chairwoman, there are no hands up. Dr. Rouse has come back up to the podium.
Oh,
Oh, Commissioner Colson has his hand up. I'm sorry.
Commissioner Colson?
I don't have any criticisms, really. Or I think that this is a good presentation. The only thing that I'm, I guess, concerned about is the Bulldog Promise. It does the criteria that was laid out, as far as you got to pass 2/3 of the classes and this, that, and the other. That doesn't seem to, and the 2.0 grade average, that just doesn't seem to be very much of a demand. And I think you really ought to think about that. My experience as a general manager, and I would say that having been a student myself, people perform to the level of expectation of either their superior in a job or, in this case, the school. So if you ask for minimal performance, you're likely to get it. Anyway, you don't really need to respond to that. I just wanted to make that statement. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Colson. And the 67% is only the amount that if they are not successful at 67%, of course, they would not continue in the program. So just wanted to make that. And the 2.0 is pretty much a standard to graduate. And I agree with you that we should set it a little bit higher, but we know that we're also going to be dealing with a wide range of students who need the training. But I do agree with you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I see no other hands up, Madam Chairman.
I see no hands. Thank you, Dr. Rouse and Mr. Owens, for your presentation.
I'd like to take just a moment to mention that we do have the chair of our board here, Mr. Gary Evans, and certainly appreciate his support, as well as Vice President Brown. So they're both here as well. But thank you for hearing our request, and we hope you'll find it favorable as you deliberate. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. And I believe we are at the point where at this point, before decision and questions, we're going to go into closed session.
Or Madam Chairwoman, if I can suggest before you enter the closed session, regarding what's been presented to you both Monday night and these 3 days of workshops, is the board to the point where you're ready to consider sending this budget as proposed to a public hearing, or are there any additional tweaks or considerations you want made? We have made we'll make accommodations for the 2 DSS positions that the majority of the board seemed to indicate that you wanted to add back. I believe, Brian, that is all at this point, right?
We had the 2 positions in DSS. I just want to make you guys aware, I believe in the presentation, it was presented basically from the standpoint of the salary and benefit cost of those 2 individuals. The way DSS's internal financials work, there may be some additional costs that we may have to consider when we do add those positions, but it also affects what we can receive on the reimbursement. So just as a heads up, in June, it won't be the exact number that was presented this week with the DSS folks, but we can add that in. And then also we did receive the request from the Fountain Library. It's not a very large amount, but if you would like for us to include that, we can include that number as well.
So we can do all of this and still accommodate the half-cent tax rate reduction on that ad valorem tax rate. And if the board was in a position to want to give us direction to go ahead and prepare this for the public hearing, Commissioner White, I believe Commissioner Fitzpatrick, wanted to be part of that overall either vote or consensus.
Okay, thank you. I see Commissioner Nunley's hand.
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you. At this time, I would like to move, if it's appropriate, to move the budget and set it for public hearing pursuant to our rules, with the addition of the 2,000 for the Fountain Library, as well as.
Madam Chair, can we get try to attempt to get Commissioner White and Commissioner Fitzpatrick on, since a motion is being made, since they both, or actually Commissioner White indicated she wanted to be part of that vote and motion. I think the clerk
Yes,
is,
yes.
she's reached out to both right now.
And I'll second that motion while we're waiting, if that's okay.
Thank you.
Commissioner Colson has his hand up, Madam Chairwoman.
Okay, Commissioner Colson?
Yeah, maybe from last time.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I was unmuted there. I just wanted to make that same motion.
Thank you.
Commissioner White is calling in now.
Okay.
While we are waiting for Commissioner White and Commissioner Fitzpatrick, can this board think about going back with all the technology problems we're having, going back to in session?
I think
I'm willing to try it, or let's go back into a individual determination base or something.
I think Commissioner Perkins Williams, there is conversation about that. And Mr. Manager, is that true?
Yes, actually, I have a 2 o'clock meeting today with Dr. Silvernail to talk about in-person meetings, particularly our board, and I believe he's going to be meeting with maybe one of our other municipalities to get guidance and such. Madam Chair, would you like that information presented at your next scheduled board meeting, May 17th, or do you want to hear that before then, with the potential to have an in-person board meeting on May 17th?
Do you think you can have some guidance by May 17th?
Well, I should have it this afternoon after the 2 o'clock meeting, I would think. So I could confer with you, and then we will, if you decide to move to an in-person meeting, work with the clerk and the attorney to make sure that we've got the correct notification to the public, so they understand that we're not in a Zoom environment, but we'd be in person if that is the case.
I think that would be great.
May I ask?
Would we be doing it at where would we be doing it? Commissioner Chambers or at the Ag Center?
I would think for the sake of our PIO staff and having it broadcast live in the commissioners' chambers, we could try to make accommodations to put plexiglass up if that would be the board's desire. Whether we can have that in place by the 17th or not, I would have to check and check on that factor as well.
I think it will depend upon the recommendations from Dr. Silvernail this afternoon.
Okay.
Right.
All right. We'll wait to hear from that meeting and then we'll go forward.
Okay.
Commissioner White is on the line, and Commissioner Fitzpatrick is asking what number does he need to call? Is it just? I have to log in.
Needs to dial in the number that was in his confirmation email that was sent to him. We're having issues with the call-in, so he needs to use that confirmation that we sent him.
Calling you now.
Pardon me?
Can we just link him in? We can just do it
You
from
want me to
there.
just do it here?
If he doesn't.
That's fine.
Hey there. Do you want me to just put you on speakerphone that way? I'm That's fine. I'm happy to. I'll put you on speakerphone and put you under a microphone. Just one moment. Commissioner Fitzpatrick, can you hear us?
I can.
Okay, Madam Chair, we're ready to proceed.
All right. Will you give us direction as to?
Sure. So we're just concluding today. Obviously, the budget presentation occurred on Monday, the 3rd. We've had 3 days of budget workshops with the different agencies coming in before you. At this point in time, I was asking the board earlier, just a few minutes ago, whether it was your desire for us to get either by vote or by consensus, a desire to move this budget forward to this public hearing date that we've identified. And there's 2 additions that have came out of the budget workshops that we've heard from you, and that is to add the 2 DSS positions and also to fund the Fountain Library at $2,000. The public hearing is scheduled for June the 8th at 6 p.m., which I believe is a Tuesday. And at this point in time, you have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Nunley, a second by Commissioner Beth Ward to proceed in that manner.
Do you have any questions, Vice Chair Fitzpatrick?
I do not.
Commissioner White?
No, Madam Chair, I'm all good.
Okay. All right, then we will carry forth the motion. Madam Clerk?
Chairwoman Floyd Huggins,
Yes.
Vice Chair Fitzpatrick,
Yes.
Commissioner Albright,
Yes.
Commissioner Colston,
Yes.
Commissioner McLaughlin,
Yes.
Commissioner Nunley,
Yes.
Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
Commissioner White,
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. So at this time, any other directives, Mr. Manager, before we go into closed session?
Oh, no, ma'am.
Madam Chair, I just want to, since I haven't been there much, I know I've said some things to staff. I just do want to make a comment that I'm very pleased with this budget. I am pleased that we are able to offer the citizens a half-cent tax deduction or reduction, and I am pleased that we are able to fund the schools at 100% request.
Thank you, Commissioner White. I see Commissioner Nunley's hand.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that we move into closed session.
I second that.
Okay, it's been moved in second that we go into closed session. Are you ready for the question?
And if I may read the basis.
Yes, Madam Attorney, take us
It is
into closed session.
that this board go into closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A3 to consult with an attorney employed by the public body in order to preserve that attorney-client privilege. With that, you may proceed to your roll call vote.
Okay. Madam Clerk?
Chairwoman Floyd Huggins,
Yes.
Vice Chair Fitzpatrick,
Yes.
Commissioner Albright,
Yes.
Commissioner Colston,
Yes.
Commissioner McLaughlin,
Yes.
Commissioner Nunley,
Yes.
Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
Commissioner White,
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. We will now go into closed session.